Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing an advice video. It was suggested to me that because my previous advice video helped you guys out a lot, that I should do an advice video every week alongside my sort of beauty videos. The first topic that I'm going to talk about is anxiety, which was highly requested. I asked you guys to send me in some questions, so I've got a list of the questions that I'm going to answer and hopefully I can help you guys. First question that I got a few of was, what exactly is anxiety? One person said to me, is it just one thing or can it be lots of different things? I thought it was when you over worry and think about things, but somebody told me it was where you're scared to be in a group of friends, and now I'm a bit confused about what it is. First of all, both of those things that you said about the over worrying and the being in a group of friends are anxiety. There's not one definition of anxiety across the board. Anxiety is a normal human emotion, but when it gets to the stage where it's affecting you in your everyday life and it's really debilitating you, like you're worrying about things that you shouldn't, that's when you know that you do have a problem. It's not a bad thing if you do have, well, it is a bad thing, but it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's just sort of when you find things difficult, and it comes along with a lot of physical symptoms as well as mental symptoms. There are different types of anxiety. For example, you can have social anxiety, which may include when you're in social situations and you find it difficult to be in a group of friends. Over worrying and overthinking about things. This could be everyday things. For example, for me, time is a really big worry. Like if I'm late to somewhere, I get really panicky, and I get really panicky the night before when I have to be somewhere on time because I think something dreadful is going to happen if I'm not on time. The second question is, does anxiety affect you physically as well as mentally? And the answer to that is yes. For example, this is not the same for everyone, but more commonly you have a tight chest, you start to shake, you may feel sick, you may find things are a bit blurry and hazy around you, like you can't concentrate, you have sort of that feeling of dread in your heart and you find it hard to breathe, and your heart can beat really fast. There are other symptoms, but those are just the ones which are the most common. So yes, it can affect you physically, and it can be really physically debilitating, especially when you're in the middle of an anxiety attack. How do you know when you are getting anxiety / what are the first signs of anxiety? For me, primarily, I notice the feeling in my chest, just sort of here. I can't really explain it, like someone's like pushing in my chest. When you're really not looking forward to something and it's that feeling of dread, that's when I know that anxiety is coming on, and my heart starts to beat really fast and I sort of get a bit shaky. For other people it may be different things, but it's about learning to notice your triggers and what triggers you, and then sort of learning how to deal with that, which I'll get onto a bit later. How hard was it to open up about anxiety to your family, and how did they react? At first, when I realised that I had bad anxiety, it was a few years ago, I didn't really tell anyone apart from, I told my mum just briefly. I decided to make a doctor's appointment because it was really affecting my day-to-day life and my college life. And I told my mum, I just said I'm going to the doctors because the amount of worry I have isn't normal. She didn't really ask me about it very much, and the rest of my family had no idea I was going. It was only when I got really bad with other issues such as depression that my family realised I had a problem, and obviously anxiety is one of them. But I would definitely recommend that you tell someone how you feel. So the next question is, how does a person with anxiety get his / her friends to understand? This is really hard because these days with mental health there's a huge stigma around it, and people sometimes don't think that anxiety is actually a real thing and it can affect someone that much, but I'll tell you, it really does. For your friends, first of all, get them to watch this video, and then if you trust them, just say, hey, can I have a chat, and explain to them how you're feeling, and they may have questions for you that you can answer, and just sort of explain, because then they know how you're feeling and they can choose to take that well or not well. But I guarantee you, if they're your good friends, they will try and help you and understand. How can you explain social anxiety to close friends who don't understand? What I'd say again is just describe how that anxiety affects you in your social situations. Give them a list of sort of places where you feel really uncomfortable and where you can be triggered. Advice for dealing with anxiety when out with other people, e.g. friends. It is very, very hard when you're anxious, when you're out with people, especially if they don't know, because you can feel very isolated. If you haven't warned them beforehand, which I definitely would suggest if they're your close friends / family, warn them before and just say, look, I get anxious in these situations, this is what to do, and tell them what to do. So maybe getting you to a safe place might help, or just sitting down and doing some breathing exercises, or maybe just completely distracting your mind. If they don't know, just tap them and say, look, I'm feeling really anxious, can we? And then suggest a solution that's going to make you feel better and that's going to take you out of that situation that you feel anxious in. The next question, which is linked with what I've just said, is how do you tell someone you feel anxious when it's happening? Give them a little nudge and just say, this is how I'm feeling. If you're close with them, then maybe what you could do is sort of develop a signal. So when you feel anxious, just do something, maybe tug on their sleeve or ruffle their hair, anything that sends that signal to them that you're feeling anxious. And then if you've told them what to do, then they know to sit you down and do some breathing with you, or try and distract your mind or get you out of that situation. How do you cope? So I'm going to share with you a few of my exercises that I've been taught throughout the years for dealing with anxiety. All of these might not work for you, but personally this is what works for me. First of all, what I like to tell myself is it's not the end of the world. When you're wrapped up in anxiety, everything can seem like it's the end of the world and that you're going to die. But sometimes you have to remove yourself from that mindset and think, what is the worst possible thing that could happen? And if you actually think about it, the thing that you think is the most biggest traumatic thing in the world will not be as bad as you think. Just sort of talk yourself through it. Secondly is breathing. So for me, I like to take 3 deep breaths in and out, and if you need to do more, then do more. But just taking that time to focus on your breathing really slowly in and out can really help. I also like drawing a square. So you breathe in and out for 2, in and out for 2, in and out for 2, in and out for 2. And that gives you something to focus on as well as your breathing. Next is, it sounds silly, but for example, if you get really anxious when you're flying and you're sat there, try and occupy your mind with easy things. What I like to do is think of, for example, all the vegetables that are green, all the countries beginning with F, all animals beginning with G, anything that you can quickly go through in your mind to take your mind off what's actually happening. Another good thing that my psychologist told me was to think of something that makes you feel safe. So for me, I like to think of my puppy because she makes me feel happy. Can't think anything bad really when I think of her. It may be a family member, a memory, a place, anything that when you think of, you immediately feel safe. Another thing could be having a stress ball or something to squeeze. For me, I like those, they're like squidgy things that you squeeze and it kind of like blows up one side, if you know what I mean. Like they're like filled with air and they usually flash. I would show you one, but sometimes I get a bit too stressed and I end up popping them all. But stress balls are definitely good because when you're anxious, your legs jiggle and, well, for me, your legs like move and you're like constantly moving. It's good to have something to squeeze that you're not going to cause any pain to. Finally, just distraction in general can help your anxiety. So I like to focus and watch on TV. That's my favourite one because I find it really easy. If you can't, if you're too sort of absorbed in the anxiety, then this won't work. But watching TV, listening to music, taking a bath, something to calm yourself down. The next question is how to cope in an anxiety attack. Now, if you don't know what an anxiety attack is, it's the same as a panic attack. If you haven't experienced one, It's hard to imagine how it feels. A lot of people have different symptoms, but sort of get a tight chest, your palms go sweaty, your mouth might go dry, your heart starts beating really fast. For me, everything just sort of goes in like slow motion around me, and I feel like really sort of panicky and isolated, and like something really bad is going to happen, and like everyone's just staring at me. I'm still learning how to cope with them, but my main piece of advice would be find a safe place to stand in. So say you're out, and maybe go and sit in the dressing room where you're not surrounded by people if you find it hard to be in groups of people, or just go and find an isolated part of town to sit in, maybe sit in a cafe, have a drink, or anything like that, just somewhere where you feel safe and where you can calm yourself down. Try and not let the anxiety take you over. I know it's really hard, but try to do some deep breaths. As silly as it sounds, it does help. Sit down somewhere and do some deep breaths. If you do start to feel sick and start retching or start crying, which I do with my anxiety attacks, it's fine. If you're not ready to challenge your thoughts, just remove yourself from that situation and try and calm yourself down. How to cope with the aftermath of an anxiety attack. If you're with someone and they didn't understand what's gone on, just explain to them that you had had a panic attack. Maybe that would be a good conversation starter for explaining about your anxiety and how they can help. But seriously, it's not a big deal. So many people suffer from anxiety. I can tell by the amount of questions and people I got coming to me about anxiety that you are definitely not alone. Just make sure afterwards you're calm down and you do something to treat yourself. For example, if you can, take a bath, walk your dog, paint your nails, go on a walk anywhere, listen to music, etc. How to deal with anxiety attacks at school, like during lesson. First of all, I'd say, even if you really don't feel confident saying this, I'd tell your teachers and your head of year, just because then they can understand that you're not being rude, you're actually having an anxiety attack and you can't really do anything to stop it. So when you do, maybe you can just give them a little signal, like put your hand up, and then you can go out and find your safe place and calm yourself down. If you do just need to walk out, then you can explain to them after that you were having a panic attack and you weren't being rude, and then they can know for future notice. School can be a really tricky place. For me at college, there's so many people and I feel like everyone's looking at me and judging me, which really sets my anxiety off. Like, I never want to do anything wrong. Sometimes I have to just take myself and sit in my car by myself. Good way to deal with exam-related anxiety. This is something that I really suffer from. Recently learnt to cope with it better. I just sort of tried to train my brain into thinking exams aren't the end of the world. You can do so much with your life, and not doing as well as you expected in an exam is not going to kill you. It is good to work hard for your exams, but like me, it wasn't healthy for me to work myself as hard as I did because I ended up becoming seriously ill. Balance out your time you take studying for exams between studying and making time for yourself and doing nice things for yourself. The next question is, do you have any tips for trying to cope with social anxiety? For me, personally, I find it helpful to have someone with me when I'm out. Someone who understands, so that when I feel a bit uncomfortable and I need to sort of take some space, they'll understand and they'll come with me. Or if I need to go home or stuff, they won't be like, oh, what are you doing that for? Why are you being so boring? They'll realise that there actually is a genuine problem. So I would recommend you to try and have a person there for you, and if no one knows about your anxiety, it would be a good idea just so that you can make situations easier for yourself. So for example, if you are at a party and you feel uncomfortable, then just go and find a place in the house, maybe go outside, go to the toilet, to one of the bedrooms, and calm yourself down. Just think to yourself, do you really want anxiety to ruin your evening? Do you want it to stop you from having a good time? You need to try as hard as you can to think rationally and not let the anxiety take you over. So take some deep breaths and do some exercises to calm you down. If you really can't stay in that situation, then going home and being in a place that you find safe and calming yourself down there is fine. Calling someone who understands, I mean, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to ruin your friend's night if you do that. How to overcome your fear. This is a tricky one because I don't think you can overcome a fear that you've had for a long time yourself. Obviously it is down to you, and you could maybe just take it in little steps. Maybe expose yourself to that fear. Think about what it is that you're scared about it, and try and realise that it's actually nothing, it's all in your head, and then build up that exposure until maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable with it. But usually I would say go to your doctor so they can refer you to someone to talk to, and you can start CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. They sort of look at your mind and they'll help you find the source of where this fear has stemmed from and things that trigger you and all sorts of things like that, and just help you sort of learn to train your brain and get over that fear. The next question is how to be brave in front of people and not shy, which is one that I can definitely relate to because inside I lack a lot of self-confidence, and people always say to me, like, how do you appear confident on camera, like how do you do it? For me it's like acting, and if you trick your brain into thinking that you're confident, and if you think happy things and positive things about yourself, then usually you come across as confident and not shy. A lot of the times when I'm feeling uncomfortable, I do withdraw to my phone and people think I'm being rude, but I'm not. People are not going to bite your head off if you approach them or try and talk to them. The likelihood is they want to talk to you too. And again, think about what's the worst that could happen. How should I deal with anxiety about what people think of me and about people talking about me and doing things wrong? This is where my anxiety is at its highest, because as soon as I walk into college every morning, I think, oh my god, they're all staring at me, they're thinking I'm the odd one out, they're thinking this, they're thinking all these bad thoughts. Like when I'm out shopping, it's exactly what I think. I don't know why we care so much about what other people think about us. Obviously it is important to be viewed positively, but it should just be about yourself and your self-worth. Say to yourself, it doesn't matter. I'm sure like 99.9% of the time they're thinking, oh my god, she's so pretty, oh my god, I love her top, or something. People stare and it is annoying, but that's just human beings, so you've got to kind of get used to it because you can't stop people from looking at you. Maybe distract yourself, look at your phone, just don't walk into anything, listen to music while you're walking along. It shouldn't matter what other people think of you because they don't know you as well as you do. Doing things wrong, again, think what's the worst that could happen. If something embarrassing happens to you, just laugh it off. If you're with your friends, you can all laugh together and you will find it funny in the future, even if you are embarrassed. We all do stuff wrong, we're all human. I'm sure I can think of many stupid things that I've done in front of people. What type of treatment do you find best, e.g. therapy and medicines? A mixture of both therapy and medicine, and also support from your family and friends. Therapy, like I said, CBT helps you with your anxiety. It's not just for people with anxiety, it's all different types of mental illness, but talking about the anxiety side of it, my psychologist helps me with anxiety and helps me with ways to cope. It's probably a mixture of both like therapy and my medicine that has helped my anxiety levels sort of go down. If you're struggling, go to your doctor and they can sort out therapy and medicine if needs be. I hope this video has helped you, and I hope I've answered all your questions and you can take something away from this. But if you do have any further questions, then I'll leave my kit below and my email address, because I'm always here. I don't like anyone feeling alone, and I know how hard anxiety and other mental illnesses are and how they can make you feel alone a lot of the time. I hope this has been beneficial, and any future suggestions for advice videos, leave them below. I've got a few lined up on the topics of confidence, eating disorders, etc. But if you have any more that you'd like to suggest, then pop them below. Bye!